Welcome to DevOps Interview Preparation, Part 6. In this video, we are going to look into two more questions on DevOps, how to understand this question if it is asked in the interview, and how to answer this question properly. The first question comes from the domain Jenkins, and the question is, how do you handle security in Jenkins? Mostly, this question is trying to ask or make you familiarize with, have you worked on security related component in Jenkins? How would you answer this? Let us first understand a bit about security around Jenkins first, and then see how to answer this question in the interview. When we speak about security in Jenkins, there are a lot of different security components that are involved. So which component are we exactly speaking about? We have to ask this question as a counter question in the interview. First and foremost, when it comes to Jenkins, a login authentication is what is required to be present as a first line of defense, irrespective of what you do in this Jenkins. And with respect to authentication, that is login authentication, you can do this via different LDAP services. Example, you can integrate this with the Gmail account of the company. You can integrate this with Azure. You can integrate also this with Okta and other services so that people don't have to remember different username and passwords. They can log into Jenkins just by using their official Office email ID and password. There are other parts of security is also in Jenkins. For example, how do you handle secrets? Meaning, during the time of the build of a particular job, it might require to have certain secrets present. Where do you store these secrets in Jenkins? So there are different scenarios here. So the first thing I would suggest you is to ask a counter question in the interview. That is, could you please tell me which security around Jenkins are we focusing about? This is how you can ask a counter question in the interview. They might respond saying, let us know what you are aware of, or they might be a bit more specific, which can take you to the other domains of Jenkins. As part of this video and this question, I'm going to only focus upon login authentication. And they might say, share us what you know. So this is how you can answer after asking the counter question. This is how you can answer in the interview. When it comes to login authentication of Jenkins, by default, we do have an admin username and password that is present using which we can log in. But we understand that this is not feasible when we deploy this application in an organization where many people will use it. Hence, I would suggest to integrate Jenkins with different LDAP services that are present in an organization. For example, we might be using an official Gmail account. We might be using an official single sign-on service like Okta, etc. I would integrate Jenkins with this. This is very easy to do because there are multiple plugins that can do this, and we have to make certain changes in the security part of Jenkins. This is how you can answer this question in the interview. I hope this is clear. Let's focus on the next question now. The next question comes from the domain Kubernetes. And the question is, what is liveliness probe? Why is it used? Also, what's failure threshold? This topic you would have learned as a part of Kubernetes training that you have done in Jenkins, as a part of DevOps course. So here you want to understand, or the interviewer is interested to understand in depth, meaning he is trying to now be very specific with the question on inside Kubernetes, that is, what is liveliness probe? Why is it used? And he's also asking some config that probably might be used in liveness probe. So I believe you have found the answer or remember the answer. Let's see now how to tackle this in the interview. To begin with, we have to first understand what is liveness probe in Jenkins. Liveness probe is responsible for having or checking, okay, if a pod is in a proper running state after the deployment, okay, in a proper running state after the deployment. What is it checking? It is checking the pod. It is not checking the application. Kindly remember this. It is not checking any certain application endpoints. No, it is checking the status of the pod. This is very important. Liveness probe is responsible for checking the status of your pod. If the pod is in a running state, if the pod is successfully spinned up or not after the deployment. It is not going to check your API endpoint at this point of time. There are different other probes that will do this. So this API endpoint is not a part of liveness probe. It is responsible for more or less checking the status of your pod if it is in a running state or not, okay? And what is the threshold then? So certain pod might take more time to spin up. It is not that every single pod will take 1 second. Am I right? Some pods can take 1 second, some pod can take 10 seconds. So if we have a pod that can take 10 seconds, our liveness probe might fail because it will not wait for 10 seconds. It will think that the pod is having some issues. Hence, you can set some threshold so that it will wait and it will retry after some time, and it will make sure to check this a couple of times before actually declaring that we have some issues with the pod. This is important and it is customizable based on your application. Okay, now that we have understood what liveness probe does and what is threshold, how do we answer this in the interview? Liveness probe is responsible for checking the status of the pod after the deployment. It is mostly used to validate if my deployment has been successful and all the pods are in a running state. A key thing I would like to mention here is liveness probe will not monitor our application endpoint. Rather, it will monitor the status of the pod itself if the pod was successfully spinned up or not. Speaking about the threshold, I would like to mention that every pod takes its own time to spin up. There is no standard pod spin up time. Hence, if your company is having an application and it is deployed as a part of Kubernetes, the pod might take maybe 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. Hence, you might want to tweak your liveness probe to make some changes in the way it monitors the status of the pod and reattempt this a couple of times before it actually declares this pod as failure. This is what liveness probe is used for in any organization with respect to Kubernetes. This is how you can answer this particular question in the interview. I hope these two questions helped you re-evaluate your situation when it comes to how much you know about DevOps. Also, I believe you understood how to tackle this question if it is asked in the interview. Thank you and speak to you in the next video.